Hi everybody, thank you for joining the class. This is my first class on a Saturday on Facebook Live. During the week I'm giving classes in the morning at 11:15 in Ireland, which is 12:15 in Spain. So you're welcome. I'm in Dublin and the location is, I'm in my house obviously, but we have 7 people at home, so a lot of people. And finally I have a little space in the corbatita in Espanol, the shed in English, and it's an opportunity to have a little space to finally give some classes. So why the free classes? Because I stopped working in May because of the pandemic and we are so many people at home, it was impossible to concentrate. And since December, finally I have this little space to give some classes, and it's an opportunity to help and an opportunity for me to work as well. So hopefully we have no problem with the internet, fingers crossed, no problem with the internet, with the connection, with technology, family, hopefully no interruptions, and also the dog. We have a dog who's very noisy, but hopefully that's okay as well. So that's the situation. It's an opportunity for me to work, and I will continue. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully you understand me, and we will continue. It is free. Everything is free because it's a good opportunity for me. But at the end, if you want and you're happy to make a propina of €1 or whatever you can, that's possible as well. I can give you the details at the end. Okay. It's only optional if you're happy, but we need to work first. Okay. So yes, so let's start. So the structure would be very similar to yesterday. So at the beginning of every class I give an introduction document. That's very important in my opinion, and this document I give to every student at the beginning of lessons. At the beginning, this document is an introduction to the technical vocabulary, because during the class I explain some technical words very frequently. That's, for example, substantivo, adjective, adverb, modal verb, active, passive. So at the beginning of the class it's necessary to explain and introduce the concepts first. Okay. So in my opinion there are 3 areas of English. Grammar is one, tenses are another at times, and the other one is use of English. And for me, the use of English section is probably the most important when you're learning English. Okay, because basically you have different accents. To understand an accent from Ireland, an accent from London, an accent from Newcastle, Australia, America, very different. Okay, so understanding accents is really hard. Phrasal verbs, of course, this week we looked at phrasal verbs a lot and we analysed the phrasal verb. So the concept of a phrasal verb basically is a verb and a preposition. It has a literal significance, but also it has a second significance. Frequently you have a second significance with the phrasal verb. For example, the verb to carry is llevar. Carry the baby, carry the bottle, carry the bag. And with the preposition on, carry on, the significance is to continue. So it's a very difficult area. Some of you have experience with phrasal verbs, other people have no idea of phrasal verbs. So in the class I will try to explain little by little some examples of the phrasal verbs. Okay. The next category are idioms. In Espanol, frases hechas. Okay, and we have a lot of phrases in English that are typical with friends, with family, and in Spanish it's the same. For example, the famous expression is a taste of your own medicine, un sabor de tu propio medicino. Okay, so that's one example of an idiom. And they're very good, they're very comfortable, they're very fluent, they're very conversational. And in the class I will also try to analyse phrasal verbs and idioms. Okay, I have a list and a document also. Conversation, so practicing English, a big part of practicing English is to speak. If you have the opportunity to practice and speak with anybody in English, it's very important. Okay, obviously this class is grammar and other things, but if you have the opportunity to practice speaking, I recommend it obviously, and it's a very important activity to do. Okay, pronunciation is important, and this list is a typical example of Spanish problems when you speak English, okay, in particular for Spanish speakers. I know we have people from Brazil, from Portugal, from France, from different countries with English, but this list in particular is for pronunciation. For example, the Y, yellow, J is jacket, cash, SH, register, the G, jet, engine, the G, fragile with the G, jealousy with the J, yearly, and then chicken and kitchen. And lots of people confuse the two, so it's necessary to be very clear. Kitchen is cocina and the chicken is the pollo. So very, very different, and it's just important to be aware and conscious of the two. Okay. The next category are the times, the tenses in English. Okay, so we have basically the perfect, the simple, the continuous, the concept of the infinitive, conditionals, active and passive, and for me they're very important. So basically you have the simple, one action in the present, I eat, in the present, past simple, I ate, irregular. So we have a lot of irregular verbs in the past. That's difficult. Okay, so I eat is the present, comer in Espanol, I ate is the past, and the future, I will eat. Okay, that's the simple. Then we have the continuous, an action that you are doing continuously at the moment, and the construction is the subject, the extra verb to be, and the gerundio in Espanol, the gerund. I am speaking, I am talking, I am running, I am going, the present continuous. And the past continuous is a similar structure, except the verb to be in the past. I was eating, I was drinking, I was going. That's the continuous action in the past. And the future is similar. I will be eating, I will be going, I will be meeting. Okay, so they're the future continuous, present continuous, past continuous. The next concept is the perfect. Okay, so in English we have the present perfect, which is an action or a period that started in the past and is relevant to the present. That's the present perfect. And the construction is the subject, the extra verb to have, and the participle of the verb, tercera columna. Okay, so I have eaten my breakfast. It started in the past and it's relevant to the present because I'm not hungry, but it's finished. Okay, that's the present perfect. The past perfect is a period in the past that's finished and usually before another action in the past simple. And the construction is subject, extra verb to have, and the participle, I had eaten. Okay, so it's finished before my friend contacted me, past simple. So usually it's before another action in the past simple. We also have the future perfect, I will have eaten, and we have the continuous in the perfect, which is more complicated. Okay, and we will discuss the future with the perfect later, but this just to identify the concept. Okay, the infinitive, like the base, a base del verbo. En español tienes para beber, para comer, para leer, para comer de nuevo. And in English we have to eat, to go, to sleep, to have, to meet. So it's normally to. Okay, to eat, to go. And there's the example, para escuchar or oír, to hear. Okay, the conditionals are very technical, and the theory for the conditionals is a little heavy, but in reality it's a little more flexible in conversation. It's basically with if. So the conditional, if it stops raining, I will go to the city centre. If I won the lottery, I would buy a house. So the conditional with if. And the theory is a little bit heavy, but later we can look at the conditional and the theory. The final concept is important and very interesting. It's the active and the passive. So basically the concept of the active is the subject, the verb and the object. An ordinary sentence. I kick, como patear. I kick the ball. So subject, verb, object, and the passivo, you change the position. The ball, extra verb to be, was kicked, participle, by me. Okay, and here's the example. So the subject in the active, the verb patear in the past simple, and the object the ball. But the passivo, the ball, is the object, the verb to be extra in the past, kicked, the participle, by the man. Okay, so the tenses are very important, and in the class when I analyze a text, when I teach, it's important to recognize the different tenses. Okay, the next section is grammar. So the concept of the substantivo, or the noun in English, so the substantivo is very important. Como a person, a place, or a thing. Okay, and with the substantivo we have an article. Okay, and we have two articles in English. We have the definite article, de, como la or el in español. Tienes masculino y femenino en español, pero en inglés solo uno, de. Y indefinido, a. Okay, so a book, any book, okay, a. But their book is specific, okay, so you need to be clear with the two. We have one rule, and the rule, if the vowel, vocal, if the substantivo begins or starts with a vowel, it's necessary an. Okay, so for example, apple, manzana, it's necessary an apple. That's a little rule, okay? The concept of countable substantivo and uncountable substantivo. In English, is it possible to count the substantivo? For example, book. One book, two books, three books. Yes, it's possible to count the book. Water. Is it possible to count water? Not really, no. One water? No. Two water? No. We say one bottle of water, one glass of water, 1 litre of water. But water, it's impossible to count. So this is important in relation to how much and how many. Okay? And you can see here how much and how many. Okay? And for much, it would be uncountable. Water. How much water do you want? How much chocolate do you want? How much money do you want? Uncountable. Okay? But the opposite, countable, books, pens, bottles, how many? Okay? How many? And the U in Ireland, sometimes the pronunciation of the U is very, very strong. For example, bus, butter, much. So sometimes the pronunciation is very strong for U, but maybe more phonetically would be much, Dublin, butter, bus. Okay, so be careful with that pronunciation in Ireland. Adjectives basically describe the substantivo. So you have the substantivo, bottle, and the adjective is big. Okay, big bottle, and the position of the adjective is before the substantivo in English. But I think in Spanish it's the opposite. You have botella grande, but in English it's big bottle. So siempre, casi siempre, almost always, the adjective is before the substantive in English. Okay, adverb describes the verb. So the adverb is describing the verb, and the suffix, the end of the word, is ly. Quickly, slowly. There's lots of adverbs, and here's a couple of examples. Softly, slowly. But in Spanish it's mente, suavemente, rapidamente, lentamente. So mente in español is ly in English. Slowly, quickly, fast, softly. Okay, that's the concept of the adverb, and I obviously need to practice a little more. The modal verbs is another very important concept. We have many modal verbs, and here you can see can, could. So can is for ability. I can run a marathon. I can travel to Italy. It's ability and permission. Okay, I can go to the shop, permission. I can speak to the teacher, permission and ability. I can play football. I can run a marathon. Okay, could, may and might are possibilities. I could run a marathon if I wanted. It's a possibility. It's an option. I may run a marathon. It's a possibility. It's an option. I might run a marathon. They're very, very similar, practically the same. I think the only difference is maybe formality and more polite. So may and might are maybe more formal and a little more polite. Shall is Old English, and it's not so common, but it's a bit more formal, and it's very similar to will and similar to should. So shall we go to the cinema is will we go to the cinema, or should we go to the cinema. Should is for advice or recommendation. So consejo in español, utilizamos should, el verbo. You should go to the shop. You should run the marathon. It's my advice, my consejo, my opinion, my recommendation. Okay, should. Ought to is the same as should, but more formal. Okay, so this word ought to, pronunciation is difficult. It's more formal, and it's similar significance as should. Must is obligation. You must tener que. You must go to the shop. You must run the marathon. It's an obligation. You have no choice. The rule after modal verbs, we have the infinitive, but we eliminate to. That's the rule. Okay, so modal verb, and after the modal verb, the next verb is the infinitive, but we eliminate to always. Okay, so I can go, I can eat, I could run, I may walk. That's correct. The incorrect, I may to walk, I could to run, incorrect. Okay, and that's important. Then we have the concept of prepositions. So we have 150 prepositions more or less in English, and they're related to the position and the movement in general. Okay, with a verb, with a substantivo, the link with movement. Okay, so for example, I am in the cobertizo, the shed. I am in the shed. The caseta, in the shed. I am at location. I am at my table. So basically, at is for location. I meet you at the cafe. I walk into the cafe, so that's movement again. So there are lots of prepositions: over my hand, behind my hand, under my hand, beside my hand, in front of my hand, next to. There's so many, but it's related to movement and position. Okay, and then finally, this concept is very important. The possessives here. So for example, my hat, your hat, his hat, her hat. The pronoun possessive. It is mine, tuyos, it is yours, it is his, it is hers. And then the personal object, give the book to me, give the book to you, give the book to him. That's a very important area for sure, and many people have a difficulty there, so we need in the future to work with that and to be clear. The demonstratives also, the significance of this, that, these and those. Singular this, aquí, singular that, allí, plural these, aquí, plural those, allí. Okay, so that concept is very, very important, and you need to be very clear with the pronunciation as well. This, that, these and those. Okay, and I think that's sufficient introduction for today. And every day I like to give this introduction because it's very important for the new people, and also it's very important for familiar people just to refresh and to understand the structure of English, because this structure is the same every day, every student. It's the same structure. Okay, my advice for a website, Página de Web, Cambridge have a very good grammar website, and the British Council have a very good grammar website, and I recommend the 2 pages for future study. Okay, so also exam preparation. Normally I prepare people for exams. Writing is also an important ability, an important skill that you need to practice, and speaking as well. And that's it for today. So well done for the introduction, and now I want to show you my document for today. Well, first a little break. So this is the picture of Dublin today. This morning it's dark, it's grey, it's windy, it's raining, there's a storm, tormenta. So this is Dublin at the moment. A lot of rain today and yesterday. Okay, so probably in Spain it's sunny and very nice, I'm sure, in other parts, but this is typical Ireland, so very, very happy. Okay, that's the tenses. So here I want to show you the article today. I have chosen an article from the New York Times. Okay, so it's from the New York Times, you can see at the top, New York Times, and it's a story about visiting Dublin. Okay, this article is in relation to visiting Dublin, and it was written in September 2019, so just before the pandemic, before the COVID. This is a story about tourism in the past when people had the ability to travel, and so it's very interesting, of course, and the vocabulary is about Dublin. So the story is 36 hours in Dublin, and it's a description of visiting Dublin. So my idea today is to analyze this article, to read the text for pronunciation, and also to analyze the vocabulary and the grammar. Okay, and a key, this is algo que hizo más antes, something I made earlier, my notes and the vocabulary of the important issues. Okay, here. So after the pronunciation I will explain the grammar and the concept, because we have different pages here. Okay, for example, the verb tenses, the prepositions, the active, the passive, the phrasal verbs, the idioms in this text. Okay, so that's my idea. So first I will read a little of the article just for pronunciation. So here we go. 36 hours in, oh sorry, that's the picture, so we go back to the top. 36 hours in Dublin, a vibrant culture of Irish food, crafts, booze, literature and music offers a weekend of diversions. But it's Dublin's complex history and its welcoming spirit that will linger longest. So this word is the most difficult in the paragraph, linger. Okay, so I will continue to the, well actually I'll analyse this paragraph first. So here we can see the preposition for a city is normally in. I live in Dublin, I live in Madrid, I want to be a star in Rome, in London. So in is typically for the city. Okay, a vibrant culture. Crafts are like things that you create. So in school they have the asignatura, the subject in school, art and craft. Art is painting and craft are the cosas to athes, the things that you make. Okay, the things that you create are the crafts. Okay, so in Ireland there are a lot of shops that vendor that sell crafts, handmade. Okay, booze, very important vocabulary. Booze is another word for alcohol. Okay, so it's a little informal. Do you have any booze? Do you have any alcohol? Okay, and there is a verb, informal. To booze is to drink alcohol. Very informal. And also a boozer is an informal expression for a pub. Okay, so I'm going to show you my notes here on the right, just to keep the notes, and later I will put the notes in the video in the comment on Facebook. So to booze is the verb to drink alcohol, informal. Okay, and booze is the substantive, the noun. Also informal, the boozer is the pub. Okay, so probably all informal, but very important for sure in conversation and in every moment really of English. Okay, here we have the possession. So the rule for possession in English is with the apostrophe and the S. For example, in Spanish it's el boli de Brian. Okay, el boli de Brian, that's the Spanish structure. El libro de Juan. But in English we say Brian's book, Brian's pen. Okay, with this structure, casi siempre. Okay, Dublin's complex history. So it's the history that's the possession of Dublin. Also, you need to be careful with the difference between history and story. So for a country, in school, the asignatura for the past, it's the history. Okay, so I studio history in school. It's the story of the past. Pero story is more for your friend. I have a story for you. I have a story to tell. So there's a little difference between the two, and they're very common errors from Spanish speakers to English. Okay, so the history is typical from the country, the history. It is the possession. So my spirit, your spirit, his spirit, her spirit. But the city in English is not masculine, it's not feminine, it's an object. So it's its. But in Spanish, it's considered a person, and you say su espirito, su espirito. Pero in English, su is his, her, or its. And in this case, it's its because it's no person. It's a city. It's no. It's not human. Okay, that's the difference in Spanish and English. Again, linger is very important. Verb to linger, and it means como quedar, to stay a long time. Typical with a smell. Huele. Si tienes un huele, if you have a smell, and the smell, the bad smell, it stays. Quedar in the room, it lingers. After 1 hour, 2 hours, it continues. So to stay is to linger. I think there's a famous song in relation to linger as well that I cannot remember right now, but the verb to linger is from casi quedar, to stay, and typical negative. Okay, a little negative will linger longest. So here we have long is the adjective, comparative is longer, and superlative is longest. So it's como largo, más largo, el más largo. And the structure normally regular in English is ER and then EST. Okay, so here we have long, longer, longest. Okay, so adjective, comparative, entonces más, y superlative, el más. Okay, so very important. And that's the regular structure for the adjective, ER, EST. Okay, very good. So let's continue with the next paragraph. So here's a picture of the Museum of Ireland, and we continue to the next paragraph. Okay, and the article is written by this man, Nell, or woman, I'm not sure actually, I think it's a woman, Nell McShane, okay, from the New York Times. A lively, cosmopolitan and walkable city, Dublin is a perennial favourite, but there are more reasons to come here now than ever before. Immigrant influence, from Chinese dumpling restaurants to Polish grocery stores, has added colour and variety to an already vibrant culture of Irish food, crafts and booze. Dip into James Joyce's Ulysses notebook at the new Museum of Literature Ireland, and then relax with a glass of natural wine, shop for modern Irish linen and locally roasted espresso, and follow an in the wee hours traditional music session with the next morning shakshuka. I've never heard of that before in my life. A tomato and egg dish from the Middle East. Irish art has always leaned heavily on tragedy, and Dublin's historic cemeteries and jails are worth visiting for enlightenment into what has fueled the country's often melancholy nature. But it's the local sense of humour, occasionally dark as it can be, that's what most visitors take away from the visit to the capital. So just a little introduction to Dublin, okay, and here we will look at the vocabulary and the grammar, okay. So lively is an adjective, okay, it's related to life, como vida, and here, this como deletriar, the life is substantivo, and adjective is live, okay, it's como directo también, and there's another adjective, lively, okay, another adjective, and it means con mucha vida, okay, the city is lively, the person is lively, the atmosphere is lively, it's como con vida, okay, so very good adjective. Walkable, so here we have the suffico, able, it's related to ability, so the city, you have the ability to walk, and walk is pasear, so it's a walkable city. Dublin is a perennial, so it's related to the year, it's relevant every year, it's possible, it's a favourite every year, perennial, every year, okay. Originally Latin, I think the word obviously is originally Latin, but perennial is very every year. Immigrant influence, so here preposition from, so the influence is from Chinese restaurants to grocery stores, so from to, okay, just a connection with the preposition from to. Stores is another word for a shop, okay, so you want to visit the stores, maybe in America, in the United States it's more typical, the stores, and in the UK or in Ireland it's maybe a mix, but it's possible the shops, typical the shops, tiendas, okay. But there is a verb in English to store, and for example this room is the room I put mis cosas, okay, I store my cosas, my things, in this room. So to store is como poner fuera, okay. In the shop, in the city centre, you have the floor with the customers, and in the back you have the store room, okay, the room where you keep the product, the room where you keep the items, the store room. So store is very important. On the internet, your computer, you have storage. It's the place on your computer to keep the information and to keep the data, okay. So the verb is to store, it's like to keep, and storage is important as well. If I get my spelling right, the substantivo, the noun. Okay, so very important, and here it's just like a tienda, stores in the plural. Has added, so the verb is to add, como añadir, but here we have the extra verb to have in the present, so that's an example of the present perfect, because it added in the past, but it continues to be relevant in the present. Had added, colour and variety to, so typical with añadir, add to. I add chocolate to my dinner, I add water to my drink, add to, okay. The first word dip is very important, and I think in Spanish you have dipiar. Somebody told me last week it's possible to say dipiar. Okay, como chocolate con churros, and you dipiar. Okay, in English it's the same, to dip. Okay, we have other expressions as well. To dip your toes is como dipiar tus dedos de pie, and it's an expression to probar un poquito. So I am interested in painting, but I have never painted before, so I want to dip my toe into painting. I want to probar para iniciar. Okay, so to dip your toe into is to start at the beginning, to start a little, okay, or to test, if you like it. So also the verb to dip is related to temperature, related to price. The price dips, the temperature dips or drops, como caer. And here it's in relation to the book, the Ulysses. Okay, so if you're reading a book, the recommendation is to dip into the book, like tomar un poquito of the book. Okay, very good. And the preposition in, to, is for the movement, because the book, in the book, and to the book. So dip into. Difficult, but that's the concept of the preposition. The notebook, I think, is cuaderno. In Espanol, cuaderno. For mi apuntos, tengo mi apuntos. Mi libro is my notebook. Okay, and plural. And again, at is the museum for the location. At the museum, at the shop, at the cafe. Specific location at the museum. Again, shop is tienda, substantivo, but here it's a verb. So it's possible as shop, substantivo, but possible también to shop. And here it's the verb to shop. Okay, como comprar, un poquito como comprar, but no exacto el mismo. And here's to shop for modern linen. And locally roasted espresso. So the verb to roast is related to food. So the chicken, the pollo in the horno, the chicken in the oven, and you roast the chicken. Okay, so to roast is this action. And here in Spanish, specifically, it is roast. Asar, tostar, rostizar. Okay, so espresso rostizado, no sé, pero aquí roasted espresso. And this word is very Irish, okay? The wee hours. So wee is very, very Irish, and it means small. Very typical to say wee man. So the wee man is the baby or the child. Probably more common in the north of Ireland. The wee man, the wee hours. So the wee hours are the little hours. For example, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. Madrugada maybe in Spain. Not sure. But 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning are the wee hours in very Irish language. Okay. And here we have the hyphen into the wee. So you have two hyphens. So the hyphen is the pequeño línea aquí entre las palabras. Y cuando tienes dos hyphens, unir los tres palabras, entonces al final es un palabra. Into the we is un palabra aquí, pero es muy raro, okay? The next word is very, very good, okay? Lean is inclinar, un poquito como inclinar, is this action. For example, the pared, the wall, and I lean on the wall is como inclinar contra el pared. So to lean is this action. In Italy, in Pisa, tienes el Torre de Pisa, and it's the leaning tower of Pisa. So the verb to lean is this action, inclinar. And it's possible for support, apoyar. Por ejemplo, con mi amigo, I lean on my friend, por apoyar. I lean on my friend for support, for help. Okay? And here, history, the art in Ireland has leaned on tragedy, como utilizar. It has used tragedy, and the typical preposition is lean on. And again, there's another famous song, Lean on Me, when you're not strong, I'll be your friend. You know that song? Lean on me for support. Okay, so it's typical with the preposition on. Jail and prison, two vocabulary for cárcel in Espanol. Jail and prison, okay, practically the same. I'm not sure the difference really, but there's two words that we use, jail and prison, for cárcel. Worth is valor, very important. Worth, it's a substantivo. The worth is el valor, y también es un verbo in English, como el verb, con el verbo to be worth. Okay, so this pen, this bully, is worth €2. the value of this pen is worth. Y vale la pena is it is worth it. So the expression vale la pena in English is it is worth it. Okay, and I'll write that here. Vale la pena in English is it is worth it. Okay, and here it's the verb to be with worth again and visiting in the gerund. Okay, enlightenment is a difficult word. It's a substantive here because normally the suffix with ment, like entertainment, you have the substantivo, and here we have light, como luz, and a prefix en. So basically it's como poner luz. To enlighten, entonces enlighten me is como darme luz, como educarme, enseñarme, to enlighten. And here's the substantivo, into what has fueled the country's melancholic nature. So fuel is the substantive, like gasoline, pero también en inglés it's a verbo to fuel, como dar energía. Okay, so you need coffee to fuel your day. You need breakfast to fuel your morning, para dar energía. Okay, and here it's the verb fuel in the present perfect, has fueled. It started in the past and it's relevant in the present. The construction has fueled. Difficult. Okay, often is frequently. Frequently melancholy nature. Sense of humor, sentido de humor. Dark, oscuro. Okay, take away from, preposition away from, a visit to the capital. So you go to the capital, Dublin, and you take away your impression. Okay, so to take away. Also in the restaurant, in the cafe, it's possible to take away or take out. Okay, so just an example of the prepositions in English. So the next paragraph, we'll continue a little, and here's a map of Dublin, so people who have visited Dublin before can see the map. There's the city centre, Stephen's Green, number 3, and this article explains different locations. Okay, obviously nobody can visit at the moment. Okay, so I will look at number on Friday at 3 p.m. Prison explorations. So the imposing Kilmainham Gale, €8 or about $8.85 for the tour, which is the only way to view the site. Best to book in advance, has been a tourist attraction for a surprisingly long time, since 1966, when the jail was reopened after years of restoration by hard-working group of volunteers. The hour-long tour of the cells and Stonebreakers yard where the leaders of the rising were executed, okay, demonstrates the grim role the prison has played in Ireland's history. It housed rebels arrested during every uprising against British rule and was a holding place for convicts awaiting deportation to Australia. The tour ends in an informative museum which lays out details of the rising, of the Easter Rising, War of Independence and Civil War. If certain aspects of the prison look familiar, it might be because scenes from the movies In the Name of the Father and Michael Collins were shot here. Okay, so I want to show you the vocabulary from that paragraph. So the verb is to impose, and I think it's imponer in Espanol. So to impose is to poner, a little to put yourself, and in English it's the same, to impose. Okay, in sport the player can impose himself, impose yourself with influence. Okay, about is the preposition, like approximately. So about $8.85, approximately. About 2 o'clock, approximately 2 o'clock. About 50, approximately 50. Okay, the only way. So way normally is camino, pero también is manera. So this is the solo manera, the only way to view the site. So we have two words in English, site, S-I-T-E, and site, como vista. Okay, so I'm going to write here, the site is one possibility and the site is another possibility. So the first one is lugar in Espanol, typical for construction. You have the construction site, it's the location, the lugar for construction, the construction site, the place. And the second example is the verb to see, como ver, and it's the substantivo, the site, como vista. Okay, and también tenemos una otra palabra, the view. So we have the site and the view, very very similar. Okay, and just an interesting difference there for sure. Okay. Here we have the verb to book, very important for the hotel, for the restaurant, for the aeroplane. You have to book. Okay, book is libro, pero también the verb is to book, como reservar in Espanol. Book the hotel, book the aeroplane, so reserve. Okay, so that's the most typical in English, to book. In advance, that's the preposition we use in advance. It means before. So reserve the hotel before, in advance. Okay, has been, that's the present perfect with the construction of has, the extra verb have in the present. Been is the participle, so it's the present perfect. It started in the past and it's relevant to the present because it continues to be a tourist attraction. Okay, since, you need to be clear with the difference between since and from. Since is desde in Espanol, but since is one moment in the past. Since 8 o'clock, since yesterday, since May, one moment in the past. But from is usually from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. 2 points. Okay, from yesterday to today. But since yesterday, one moment. And that's the big difference. Okay, was reopened. So the verb is to open, and when you have the prefix, prefijo, re, it's to do it again. Redo, remake, re-ask, to ask again, to make again, to do again. And reopen is to open again, de nuevo. Okay, and here we have the verb to be, so it's the extra verb and it's the auxiliary, so that's the structure of the passive. Okay, so I opened the museum, but the museum was opened by me, so that's the passive. You remember the introduction? Okay, after, another preposition, after years of restoration, by hard-working group. So work is trabajar, pero trabajar duro is to work hard, and then the adjective is hard-working. Hard-working person, hard-working people. Okay, adjective, hard-working. And you can see here the hyphen connects the two words as well. Hard-working, one word, finally. Okay. Again, hour long is an adjective. So hour is hora and long is largo. And it's possible to combine the two to have one adjective, the hour-long tour of the cell. So here's the pronunciation of the cell here. Celda. So very similar in plural, the celdas. Okay, and also the next word, the verb to lead is liderar, and the verb is to lead, and the substantive is the leader. Okay, normally in English when you have the er, it's the person. Okay, and here it's the person, but it's in the plural, the leaders. Okay, so that's usually the rule. When you have er, it's the person. For example, painter, and there's a few other differences. Electrician, for example, is different. Magician is different. Director is or. So you have other possibilities. ICIN and or as well. They're possible for the person. Okay, and here is very good vocabulary as well. Grim is very dark, very depressing, very sad. So the weather is very grim, it's very sad, it's very dark. And here the role is connected with play, como jugar un papel in Espanol, and in English it's the same, to play a role. Okay, and it's just the adjective for the role, very depressing, very sad. In is related to history, so in Spain's history, in Ireland's history, in for the history. Okay, and remember the difference between history and story. History is for the country, for school, and the story is more for your friend that you tell. Okay, again, here you can see house, como casa. So the substantivo is the house, but it is possible also the verb to house, como acomodar. So for example, if the government, dar un casa, they give a house to a person, it's possible to use the verb to house. Okay, como poner un casa. And here is the same. So the museum contained or housed the people. Okay, and then here the verb to rise is very important. So we have two verbs, to rise and to raise, and here you can see the preposition up. Okay, so to rise and to raise. So basically the first one is usually with the object at the beginning. For example, the sun, el sol, the sun rises, the temperature rises, the price rises. But the second is usually for the person doing the action. I raise my hand, I raise the bottle. It's como levantar. It's possible with a child as well to raise a child. It's like nurturar, or to educate. Okay, raise a question. But here it's in the substantivo together. And the preposition against is contra. Okay, so the people are maybe very depressed, very low, and they rise. Okay, they appear, and that's the significance here. Against, contra. Okay, awaiting is connected to the verb esperar. So the verb is to wait, and I think we have another verb as well, to await, and it's maybe a little bit more formal, just a little bit more formal, but almost the same. And here it's awaiting in the text, so it's como esperando. Okay, and then the verb to deport is typical with the people, to deport, and the preposition to, the movement, deport to. In is again in the museum. Okay, and you remember the article. Here we have the indefinite article, but because the next word is beginning with the vowel, it's necessary an informative. That's the reason it's necessary an. The next word, lay out, is very difficult. So to lay is like poner, and the translation is poner. For example, with the baby, lay the baby on the bed. Lay the table is como hacer la mesa, lay the table. And the past is laid, irregular, L-A-I-D. And in the present here, it's in the third person with the S. I lay, you lay, it lays with the S. Okay, and out is the preposition como mostrar. So here, the example is the museum lays out the details. Como dar a todo el mundo. Okay, to lay out. Very difficult, but very advanced and very formal. Finally, might is a modal verb, and remember after the modal verb we have the following verb in be, but we eliminate the infinitive. Okay, we will finish that article for today, and I want to explain a little with the phrasal verbs. Okay, so well done with the article. I recommend that you probably continue to read the text if you want, and after I will give the document here, I will put the pictures and I will put the notes in the comment on Facebook. Okay, because we have a lot of pages, and I recommend that you try to analyze a little if you want, but also to enjoy at the same time, because it's important to enjoy the text and to really have a feeling for the article. Okay, so I will close this, and also I will close this, and I will put the link for the article in the comment. So this document is the document for phrasal verbs, and you remember in the introduction we had the use of English section, the first section. We had accents, phrasal verbs, idioms, and conversation and pronunciation. So this is phrasal verbs, and it's a big document. We have 20 pages, and last week in the class we studied a little every day the phrasal verbs, and today we will continue a little. So I recommend obviously that you prepare your phrasal verbs and you study them, because in English they're very common, they're very frequent with family, with friends, with everybody, movies, informal. Okay, and yesterday we finished with these two expressions. To come about is to happen or to appear. So come and about is like sobre. So in English, when we have the verb come and about, the significance is different. So it means to ocurrir. So for example, the problem, como, how did the problem come about, appear, apperar. Okay, how did the problem come about? How did it happen? And in English, happen is realizar or ocurrir. Okay, and then the second one yesterday we did was to come across. So come is venir, and across is the preposition, and literal, come across to me, come across the road. But the second significance is to encontrar, to find. So I am cleaning my room. I'm cleaning my room, limpio mi habitación, and I come across a book. Encontrar de repente. I find suddenly. Okay, so to come across is to find, and that's the significance here. Also with the appearance for the television, so the man or the woman on the television, and they communicate to the customer, to the viewer, they come across very well. They communicate very well. That's the second significance. So phrasal verbs are difficult because the significance is different from the literal translation, but usually logical, in my opinion. Okay, come along. So along is the preposition, and it's very similar with con in Espanol. For example, I go to the party and my friend comes with me, venir conmigo. Entonces es posible para decir él va along con me. He comes along with me, okay? So in English it's to accompany. So to come along is to accompany. So I go to the match, I go to the shop, and you can come along. You can accompany. Okay, so very common, very normal, very, very good expression. And again, the same with. It's the same, come along with. The second significance is important as well, to progress. So if you have a project or work, and I ask, pregunto, I ask you, how is the project coming along? How is it progressing? Okay, how is it developing? Desarrollar. So that's very possible as well. The vaccine, the transportation of the vaccine is coming along good, or it's coming along well. So it's progressing very good. And that's a very common phrasal verb as well. Very simple for native speakers, very quick, very fast, and for people learning English, probably difficult to catch. Okay? Come away is, as we said before, like take away. You remember the university lecture? You go to the lecture and you take away information. You take away something good, and it's the same with come away. So you go to class, you go to school, asistir escuela, and you come away, como venir fuera con más información. Come away with, and that's logical in my opinion. Okay, come back is to return. So I go to the shop, but I come back to this position. I go to Spain, but I come back to Ireland. You go to America and you come back here. Okay, so basically it's go to and come back. Also in relation to sport, remontar. In English, remontar is to come back. So Atletico Madrid have 2 goals and Real Madrid have 0 goals. Okay, some people are happy, but in the end Real Madrid score 2-1, 2-2, 3-2. So Real Madrid come back, remontar. Okay, so that's typical in sport as well. Also in career, in professional, if the person has a very bad moment, they come back, return. Very famous expression and very good. Okay, so we continue to the next page, page 5. This is difficult, come by. Okay, and this is a good example of the difficulty of a phrasal verb. So again, come is this action, come, and by is like al lado también, come by. So there's one possibility. I contact my friend and I am in my house, and I tell my friend, please come by my house tomorrow. And that means pasear a, pass by, because by is the preposition. But the second significance of come by is to encontrar or obtener. Very difficult. It's similar to encontrar, to find. So I go to the shop and I came by a new book. It means I found, or I received. And here is the example. So it's a question. How did you come by that new Mercedes? Not so common, but it is important. So basically, how did you get? And get has the significance of obtain, receive, become, or arrive. There's 4 significances of get. Get is become, como llevar a ser. Get is to receive, como recibir. And here it's like recibir. Okay, so that's an example of difficult English. Get. The verb to get has 4 significances. And here it's a preposition, come by. And the second example is como he dicho, like I said, visit a person at their house. So please come by my house. Pasear mi casa. Okay, come by. Okay, the next one is very common as well. So come down with. Okay, so probably it's connected to emotion. The preposition up, you are usually happy, you are usually good, positive, up. But down is usually negative, maybe sick or ill. And the expression is to come down with typical influenza or an infection. So today you're very good, you're very normal, and tomorrow you come down with a flu. And that's the logic in English of the expression. And here's the example. He came down with the flu. And that means the verb llevar a ser, really like to become. So he became sick or he became ill. And here's become, llevar a ser. Very, very common in conversation, very normal, very good example of a phrasal verb. So this list is very interesting and very important. The next one as well is very typical. Come, venir de nuevo. Into is the movement. So come into the house, come into the room. But come into, yes, it's literal, come into the room, but the second significance is to inherit. And the verb here to inherit is to recibir de tu padres, por ejemplo, or recibir de alguien, algo. For example, I inherit a book, a very important book from my family, and my family give me the book to keep. That's to inherit. Okay? So basically, it's possible to say come into has the significance of inherit. So you came into some money last week. So you inherited some money. Very good expression, very fluent. And here's the example. So he came into a large sum is like quantity or amount. He came into a large sum of money when his aunt, su tía, died, muerte. That's a good example. Very sad situation, but a good example. To come into is to receive or to get. Okay? Come off, logical. So you have the aeroplane and the wheel, rueda, of the aeroplane come off. So that's logical because on is good and then off is fuera. And that's the significance of the come off. And fall is caer and break is romper. So fall off or break off. And the handle, so the suitcase is the maletera. The suitcase. Suit is traje and case is the bolsa. Okay? And the suitcase is the maletera. And the handle is the object for mano. Okay, the handle. Same with the door. You have the door and you have the handle. Okay, so the handle came off the suitcase when I picked it up. So that's logical, really, no problem. Okay, but yes, okay. So the next one is to come out, and again, quite logical. So I am in my house. Okay, I'm inside. Preposition in, and at 2 o'clock I will come. Future simple. I will come out. Okay, phrasal verb to appear. Not difficult. Okay, but in relation to this example, they speak of the car and the street. So you're on the street and de repente, suddenly, another car come out from nowhere. Aparecer del cielo. Okay, and that's the expression. It came out of nowhere. Fuera del cielo. Fuera de cielo. No sé, fuera de nowhere in español. No sé cómo se dice nowhere. Okay, nowhere in español. Aquí is here. Nowhere is in ningún parte, in ningún lugar. Okay, and it means to appear. Then the other one is, as I said yesterday, this is a typical expression in relation to sexuality, and it may be informal, but it's very famous. So to reveal, revelar. Okay, and Sam finally came out last month. That's the past simple, and it means to reveal in relation to sexuality. Okay, so that's quite typical as well. I think the next ones are logical, but that's just an example of the phrasal verbs, and I think to study the phrasal verbs are very important to really master and to understand English. So I recommend, definitely, if you want to improve, if you want to understand English, phrasal verbs are a big part to help. Okay, so this list is a typical list. It's available on the page, on my comment, and there's lots of lists on the internet, but this one is very good in my opinion. Okay. Next, we will continue with idioms. So remember the category, use of English, phrasal verbs, idioms, frases hechas. So here we have another PDF, another document of typical idioms. And last week I gave in the class a few examples, and we stopped, I think, at cheesy. Okay, so cheese is the food, like fromage, I think, that you eat cheese. That's the substantivo. But the adjective is very cheesy, and it's como falso. For example, in the movies, if the movie, the película, es muy romántico, pero demasiado romántico. It's demasiado obvio. It's very, very cheesy in English. That's a perfect example. Like, not authentic. In real, not real. Okay? And that's very famous, cheesy. Clock in and clock out. So I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see. The next one, clock in and clock out. So clock is reloj. Okay, the reloj, the clock in the wall, but the watch is the reloj and the clock is on the wall. Okay, but the verb in English is to clock in and clock out. It's typical in work, in the factory. You enter work at 9 o'clock and it's necessary with your card, clock in, register, and when you leave, cuando dejas, a las 5, or in España, a las 8, it's necessary to clock out, to register para dejar. Okay, that's typical for work. Clock in, clock out. Okay? Close to home. So close has two possibilities. One possibility is cerca. Estoy cerca mi perro. I am close in the distance to my dog. The second significance is emotional. Estoy cerca a mi perro. I'm very emotionally close with my dog. That's the second possibility. And the third possibility, deletrear el mismo, pero significado cerrar. Okay, and the pronunciation is different. Close is cerca, close, but close is cerrar. Close the door, close the window, cerrar. Okay, and here it's cerca, close to home, close to the city, cerca a. Okay, literal, not very difficult, very literal. Okay, cold shoulder is very, very famous. So this part of the body is the shoulder, and cold is frío, pero dar, to give alguien, to give somebody the cold shoulder, very famous, is como ignorar. Por ejemplo, si yo quiero ignorar a ti, if I want to ignore you, I turn my body a little like this, so I give you the cold shoulder. Very famous, very good expression, very typical in movies, in conversation, in every situation, a cold shoulder. Coming of age, so age is edad, so come is venir, venido de edad is cuando estás 18, 21, you're coming of age, or quizás 51, it's posible to come of age. Okay, so it's como para estar en tu momento mejor. Okay, to be in your best moment, to come of age. Yes, this is typical. Cook is cocinar. Someone is alguien's. Goose is gallina, maybe. Yes, gallina. And the gallina is the goose. Ganso. Okay, so ganso, cook somebody's goose. So goose is typical para cocinar, to cook, and the significance is to spoil the person's opportunity or the chance. And the verb to spoil is arruinar, okay, or memar. Typical with children. If the child is memado, the child is spoiled. Okay, and I'm going to write that here, to spoil or to ruin. To spoil or to ruin. And the adjective is the child is spoiled, the party is spoiled, ruinard. And here, if you have the chance, is the opportunity of success. Success is éxito. And remember, éxito is the substantivo, success. Adjective is successful, and el verbo is to succeed. So this family, success, I'm going to write it here because it's very important. Success is the noun. Successful is the adjective. Successful adjective. And then succeed is the verb, typical with in. Very typical with the next preposition in and the gerundio. Succeed in doing, succeed in having, succeed in meeting. Okay, so succeed in is typical the verb. Okay, so here, to cook, para cocinar alguien's ganso, is an expression para arruinar la oportunidad por alguien. So it is typical in conversation, it's possible, and that's an example of an idiom. So it's necessary, in my opinion, to understand the idioms very comfortably, very well, to really understand English, in my opinion. Phrasal verbs and idioms are so important because they're very normal. Okay? Let's cook someone's chicken. Copycat, very, very famous. So copy is el verbo copiar. Cat is gato. Entonces, si tú estás un copycat, tú copiar me muchísimo. por ejemplo. So, por ejemplo, si yo digo, hola, mi amigo Bromar también. Hola, it's a copycat. The person who copies the other person. Exactly, the copycat. Very famous, very important. No sé en español si es posible esto, pero it's important. Cost is in relation to money. So you go to the shop and the chocolate cost €2. The car costs €2,000. The cost. I think it's a costar. Okay? And an arm and a leg. So the expression, the holiday cost me an arm and a leg. Okay? Arm is brazo and leg is pierna. And in español creo que es costar un ojo de mi cabeza. Okay? And in English it's very typical. The car cost me an arm and a leg. The holiday cost me an arm and a leg. The new jacket, the new jumper, the new shoes cost me an arm and a leg. So expensive. Very famous expression, very typical. Okay? Very good vocabulary. The next one, a couch potato. So the couch is the sofa. In English we have two words for the sofa. One is sofa and the second is the couch. So the pronunciation is important. Different word completely, okay? Coach and couch. Okay, so the first word is sofa. So the couch is the sofa. Pronunciation couch. Like ouch when you come with dolor, ouch, couch. And the other one is coach, como entrenador. So entrenador and sofa. Couch and coach. Okay, there's a good example of pronunciation. Trainer. For football, the entrenador, the coach. Pero es posible también autobús. Tenemos una otra posibilidad por coach. Es como autobús o entrenador. Y couch es como sofa. Y aquí, couch potato es como patata por sofa. Pero significado, la persona, el person, quien queda en sofa por todo el día y no mover. Ahora todos somos couch potatoes porque necesitamos quedar en casa. Pero a couch potato normalmente es vago en español. Y vago is lazy. So lazy is vago. Lazy person. And a couch potato is this expression, a lazy person. A nini, I know that's an insult in Spanish, but a nini is a couch potatoes because the potato no tiene mover. Okay? Very famous, very typical. Cover a lot of ground. Okay, so to cover a lot of ground. Ground is tierra. And, for example, the animal, muy rápido. The cheetah, muy rápido. She covers muchísimo de tierra. Covers a lot of ground. This is a metaphor por tu trabajo. If your job, you're the representativo de comercio, and you visit different opportunities, you cover a lot of ground. Literal. Okay, but very common also. Crack of dawn. Okay, dawn is the alba. Dawn is when the sun, el sol, levantar, when the sun rises, it's dawn. Okay, it's the iniciar del día, the dawn of the day. Okay, and I think there's a movie as well, the dawn of the day. Iniciar, the dawn of the dead is the movie El Alba del Muerta, but the dawn of the day is the start of the day, and the expression is the crack, because el verbo, well, yo sé también en español tú eres un crack, pero en inglés es como el verbo crack, como romper, but no exacto romper, es casi romper. Por ejemplo, mi plantilla por mi móvil, tengo un crack en mi móvil. So, no es no casi rompo, pero es un poquito línea, es a crack. Y entonces, the crack of dawn is el momento primero, the first moment del inicio del día, the crack of dawn. So, levanto a la crack of dawn. I wake up at the first moment, puedo ver el sol. That's the expression, at the crack of dawn. Muy pronto, very early in the morning, the first moment of sunrise. Okay? Very good. The next one is very famous as well. So the bridge is the puente. Y puedes cruzar, cross that bridge cuando tu venir a el puente. So it's a metaphor to no te preocupes por el problema ahora, porque puedes tratar con el problema después. So you're able to cross that bridge later. Very famous expression. There's another expression, como patear el can, in English to kick the can. The can is como lata, como patear el lata in calle. And that's very similar. So the first expression, cross the bridge when you come to it, very famous. And the other expression is kick the can down the road. A little different, but to kick the can down the road is to poner el problema en el futuro. So a little different, okay? And here is cruzar la puerta cuando estás allí, okay? Again, the next one is very, very, very comfortable, very conversational, very normal. Crunch. So crunch is a verb like this, very similar to crush. Crush is this action, and crunch is very, very similar. So to crush is very, very similar, and to crunch. The adjective is maybe a better example. Crunchy. For example, the cereal. The cereal is very crunchy, very, very duro, muy hard. The food is very crunchy, but to crush is como destruyar, okay? And entonces tiempo de crunch is the most important moment, because the day is normal, everything is normal, but crunch time is the tension, the climax. So creo que es posible como climax. So for example, the football, the start of the football is 3 o'clock. So 1 o'clock you prepare, 2 o'clock you prepare, 3 o'clock is crunch time. That's the expression, okay? And two more. So cry is llorar. So llorar, romper a llorar, to cry in English. And over is sobre. So llorar sobre milk is leche. And the verb is to spill. So the verb is to spill. And the past is two possibilities, spilled or spilt. Two possibilities for the past in this case, because originally the past simple in English normally was T. For example, build, construir, built with a T. And spill es posible T, porque normalmente hace muchísimos años to construct the past simple siempre T, pero ahora es ed. Okay? And the verb to spill is typical with water or liquid, and tienes the taza, okay? So llenar el agua en la taza, pero demasiado y spill, okay? Y eso es el verbo, creo que entiendes, it's to spill, con liquid, to spill. And tenemos una otra expression también, spill the beans. So the beans are como the comida, the beans, y spill the beans is como dar la información. Okay, so to spill is one possibility, and to spill the beans is to reveal the secret or to tell the story. Reveal the secret or tell the story, and in español, spill aquí es específicamente es spill, derramar, verter. Okay, so the expression is cry over spilt milk. So it's very typical. So it's como no gastar tu tiempo, porque ocurrir ya. It happened already. The milk has spilled, so no te preocupes demasiado ahora, porque es terminado. Okay? And the expression is to complain. Is como quejar. Complain aquí is here. Quejarse. So complain about a loss and perdido from the past, porque it's finished. So that's a typical expression, a bad explanation, but very common in conversation, in movies, in everything. And very native, very fluent. Okay, curiosidad mata el gato. Okay, curiosity. So adjective is curious, substantivo is curiosity, and matar is kill. And here it's regular in the past, killed. Okay, so curiosidad, matar in pasado, el gato. And that's very typical and very famous, that it's malo para buscar demasiado por noticias, por datos de gente, por ejemplo, okay? And finally, cut is cortar, and the corner is esquina, creo que esquina, the corner, and it's in relation to work. So if your job is necessary this direction and this direction to complete, pero tú decidir, you decide to go this direction, to cut, para hacer un más corto tiempo, menos tiempo. And in English it's the same. To cut the corner is to como engañar. Okay, to engañar. Okay, so that's a good example of idioms and phrasal verbs. Okay, and that's important every week, every day, and in the class normally it's a similar structure: introduction to the grammar, explanation of the topics of the vocabulary, article, analysis of a real article, newspaper, magazine, vocabulary, grammar analysis, then phrasal verbs analysis and idioms analysis as well. And you can hear my wonderful dog as well. It's a big husky, so he's very, very loud. And in English we have two verbs for the dog. We say to bark, so the dog is barking is one possibility, but specifically my dog is the husky, Siberian husky, so we have another verb, to howl. Okay, and that's a bit stronger, so that's a perfect example for the dog. So I continue next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday in the morning with the free classes on Facebook Live. I hope this can help a little. During the pandemic, everybody's at home, and it's a good opportunity for me also to return to work and hopefully to maintain the rhythm, and hopefully I can continue with the location, with the people, with the situation. Okay, so thank you very much again. Everything is free, as I said, and if you want to give a little tip or a little donation, that would be fantastic. There's my details. If you want €1 or €2, that's the account for PayPal, and Bizoom as well if you want, or the bank. It's an option, it's not necessary, but if you want. Okay, so thank you again very much for today. I hope there was no problems with the internet or with the Facebook Live. I hope you watched. Thank you so much, and talk to you soon, and have a great weekend. Bye bye.